Sir, you had a long and distinguished career as a manager and leader working with companies like Hindustan Lever and Berger. So could you share some key learnings from your career that would be useful for our audience?
I think I'm glad that you asked that question. I think first key learning I would like to share is never stop learning. I think that's the only way I think one would keep on growing as a person, as a manager, as a leader. Second is you can learn from anyone. It is not that you learn only from other leaders. You can learn from the watchman, you can learn from Mali, you can learn from liftman, you can really learn from anyone because there are lots of small things one can learn from them. And finally, I have learned a lot from my students. So while I have taught, maybe I think I learned more than what I taught.
That's wonderful. Sir, at a stage where you're probably reaching the highest levels of management in these companies, that is when you made a decision to move from the corporate side and into education. So could you share the motivations behind this move?
I think I had to thank one Mr. Gulati for that. When we met at a party and we got talking, I found him very, very interesting. And we decided to meet over one of the weekends. And he asked me, what is the purpose of your life? This was when I was 40 years old. I had around 15, 16 years of experience. And that confused me because I had never asked this question to myself. So, only thing when you start in MBA is when one is not sure, one can, sort of give it back. And I said, what is the purpose of your life? And he gave me a beautiful answer. He says he worked in corporates, but now he's actually in executive coaching, and he sees the purpose of his life is making others more effective. And I said, wow, this is something that's very clearly appealed to me. And then when I started thinking, saying that, do my customers think that I made a difference to my life? The answer was very clearly, to their life answer was very clearly no. So I said, then what am I doing? Is it that I'm really making any difference to anybody? And I think the answer was maybe to the people with who I work, etc., but very few. And then I said, then what is it I need to do? And then the answer was very clear because my father is a teacher, my grandfather is a teacher, and I keep on meeting a lot of their students who are grateful for them. And it was absolutely clear that I think if one really wants to make a difference to the lives of a large number of people, I think education is the best way. And then that got one thinking that, okay, education, but what, how, and so on and so forth.
So again, when we look at people with your kind of experience and qualification from the best B schools in the country, could always look at going back to the IIM, going back to the very elite institutions. But somewhere you decided to start a B school for frontline managers, where the quality of students, honestly speaking, is not the same as it would be in the very top B schools. So what could be the reasons for Vanguard specifically within education?
When this thought came that one can make a difference and one can contribute in the field of education, when you started talking to colleagues, friends in various industries, that what is it which is really lacking in terms of the people who join corporate careers. And it came through again and again and again at various levels that what they are looking for is the people who can perform, who have the right attitude, who have the right skills. A large number of them come with a lot of knowledge, but what they lack is the right attitude, the reliability, some very simple things like ability to really write a good one-page email, ability to analyze Excel sheet, and very simple stuff like that. And therefore, we said if that is the case, maybe I think what you need is a B school where you are not really looking at very bright guys who go to IIMs who in any case would be hired by Goldman Sachs and people like these, but the people which Indian industry needs with the right attitude and right skills who can actually make a difference to India. And therefore we said that look, there are already top B schools which exist for brilliant guys. Now, is there any B school which exists for ordinary people who come from very ordinary background, which may not necessarily be metro cities, small, rural, semi-urban, that kind of background. Number of them may not have even, studied in English medium. They could have studied in their own vernacular medium, maybe Tamil, maybe Telugu, maybe Hindi, maybe Bengali. And quite a few of them, depending on the opportunities available, because they may not really come from very strong financial background, they've not had the kind of exposure, they haven't had the opportunities. Now, these are the people who want to do something with their life, but they won't get admitted into number of B schools for a number of reasons, the kind of background they have, the kind of education they have, plus the kind of cost of the education which is there. So we said, is this possible to set up an organization, set up a B school where you can provide affordable 2-year full-time education to these kind of students who come from this kind of disadvantaged background, and help them to build the right attitude, help them to really build skills, and make them really ready as frontline managers, which is really required for corporates. Because corporates do spend a lot of their time in training and building these attitudes and skills. So if one can do part of that, then that would help the corporates.
So this is very interesting. But with the experience that we've had over 5 years, so would we say that corporate has been accepting of students of such backgrounds? Has there been acceptance for students who have come from a vernacular background, people with average or sometimes slightly below average academic scores, people who grew up in very small towns? So how have you found corporate acceptance for these kind of students?
When we spoke to people when we started Vanguard Business School that this is the kind of need gap which exists, one also realized that people saying this is what is required is one, but when we take students and we teach them and we get them ready, it is not necessary that corporates are going to accept it so easily. So we thought that's going to be quite difficult. Second, when we said that yes, one can make a difference to these people who come from these kind of backgrounds, while saying is one thing, actually doing it is not so easy. So I think we were very clearly concerned about both these fronts. A, can we actually hone, change, build their attitudes and skills? And second, will corporates believe us? Fortunately, I think both have come out to be true. Okay, fortune does not have to do much part of it, but that I can need a bit of luck. But I think what we have seen is, if you actually take in people who have some fire in the belly, who have burning desire, alright, they haven't had the kind of opportunities that others would have. One can teach them, train them, make them reasonably proficient in English as it is required for a frontline manager. You don't need somebody who can, have 5,000 word vocabulary, or who can really, speak in Oxford accent. You don't need those kind of people as frontline managers. But what you need is somebody who can actually understand customers' need, who does not have any hesitation in getting his or her hands dirty, who's willing to work hard, who's reliable, who can work if required 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. without cribbing. So somewhere one wanted to develop people with that kind of attitude, that kind of work ethic, that kind of belief that when I perform, irrespective of my background, I can become anything. And we've seen that kind of situations happening. Somebody who had never gone out of their village or the district or the town all their life, first time they left their town in, let us say, some district in UP or some district in West Bengal, and for the first time crossed their state boundaries, came to Bangalore, had a lot of difficulty in adjusting, but they had the fire in the belly that I want to become somebody. The other part, of course, was the financial part, as I mentioned, because it is not easy for people like this who come from background like this to really afford education. So we said, how do we make it more affordable? So we said we have to keep our fees somewhere close to 4 or 5 lakhs, where it is relatively easier to get loans. It is relatively easier for the parents to figure out how this education can be funded. And then we said, all right, if that is what is the case, what kind of jobs they can get? And we said, if one can really have an education which can make them frontline managers by spending 4 or 5 lakhs, and the guy can get a job of 4 or 5 lakhs, I think this kind of return on investment is certainly worthwhile. Of course, there was one important caveat, is having the students who very clearly want to become something in life. So therefore, one of the difference which we had in our selection processes, we certainly looked at marks. They certainly are important, but they're not the most important thing. We certainly look at scores in exams like CAT and MAT and so on, but again, that's not the most important thing. We certainly looked at communication skills, but as long as they were communicative in regional languages, we were fine. It was not necessary that they were good in English. But something what was most important is they wanted to become something in their life. So when we looked at this and we took in these people and the kind of work we all did with them, well, I've been to many B schools, including IIMs. I'm not sure whether faculty members spend the kind of time which we spend with our students. And I think somewhere while shaping them, I have no hesitation in admitting that I think we also shaped ourselves. We learned a lot, what we thought we will do. We have revised our curriculum more than once because this is something we want the people to be ready for the industries, who start performing on day one without any hang-ups. And therefore, we've been responding to industry needs and we made those changes in curriculum with the whole objective that how do we continue to shape the attitude and skills of the people and made them welcome by the industry. At the end of it, proof of the pudding is in eating, and we've had large number of reputed companies, whether it is Airtel, whether it is Cholamangalam, whether it is Colgate, you name it, from various different sectors who have taken our students. And one of the things we keep on hearing from HR managers from various companies, that your students are different than other B schools. And the difference is in their can-do attitude, the difference is in their attitude, which is really positive. And you ask them to do something and they say, yes, we can do it. And I think that's what have made them different. And that's why they have come again and again in recruiting. And therefore, what we worried about, whether corporates will really welcome our student, in fact, now it is least of the worry.
So I think partly you answered the next question, which is what makes Vanguard special. But Vanguard is one of these rare B schools which puts attitude and skill development ahead of knowledge, and that's the ask approach. So could you explain how that works?
See, when we looked at it, once again, that what is really taught in B school versus what is really learnt in B school versus what is required by the corporates who hire them. When we looked at all this and we said, where is the gap? I think one of the things which very clearly came out is that somewhere, while the curriculum, the textbooks, for example, everybody reads the same Philip Kotler in marketing. It's not that IIMs read a different textbook or a different B school reads a different textbook. So the knowledge imparted is not really much of a difference. So can we really be a differentiator in knowledge? It was unlikely. So we said, where can we really differentiate? And we said, where we can differentiate is how this knowledge can be applied in terms of the building the skill. So it was not in terms of teaching them IT, but in terms of how do we use an Excel sheet to analyze something using a real life problem. And that's where the skill part comes in. But what more important we found is that if you don't know something, if you're not able to do something, what do you do? And number of times we found that conventional business school education does not prepare the student in terms of saying that I can do almost anything, let me figure out, let me seek help and find out what can I do. So how do I change that particular attitude that this is not my job? I was not trained for this. Or did I do this MBA to get my hands dirty? Or did I do my MBA to do such a mundane job? We said we have to get rid of such things because at the end of it, at the entry level, an MBA will have to do large part of his job is mundane, large part of his job is routine. If he is going to expect and start believing that I am going to do strategizing, then he is going to get disappointed. So we say somewhere we need to build the right attitude that when you want to learn what happens in a corporate, you have to learn to do a lot of mundane stuff, and that is how you go up, that is how you grow, that is how you learn. But somewhere that required a change in an approach, change in an attitude, and therefore we look at things like punctuality, we look at things like reliability, we look at things like keeping commitments are important ingredients of building the right attitude, and saying that no job is small. Every job is important and every job in a way is a stepping stone for me to a success. I think that's the belief with which we have looked at the skills and attitude, and I believe that that's an area we are therefore different. It's not that we undermine knowledge, it's not that we don't stress enough about the knowledge, because knowledge is basic. If you don't have knowledge, you can't really figure out how to apply that knowledge. But I think we don't stop at knowledge, we take it further in terms of how to apply that knowledge, and while doing that, no job is small, anything is a learning opportunity for me. That's the attitude.
Wonderful, sir. When we look at claims on placement, because that seems to be what students, they're more interested in the end result than the process, but 100% placements each year for 3 years in a row, and despite the training methodology, what is it that makes each and every student succeed, at least to some extent?
I think one of the, again, differential between Vanguard Business School and others is, while what we do is ask, approach, which is the knowledge, skill, attitude, but we also believe that each student is unique, each student is different, and therefore requires a special attention. Our mentoring system takes care of this, that every student needs a different kind of input, and unless he gets that kind of personal focus, unless that he gets that kind of personal attention, so in a way what we do is to have a specific development plan for each student. How is that student going to build his skills, and how is that student going to build the right attitude? We do a lot of things which I doubt whether any college does it. We ask our students to write a diary which is seen by the mentor. We ask students to make a timetable for his study and discuss with his mentor what are the difficulties he has in making and implementing the timetable. So we go to a lot of nitty-gritties, because at the end of it, one can't really shape skills or attitude without being on the ground. So that's what we do very, very differently than what others do. And when we do it day in, day out, it is like that saying that even a soft rope can cut the stone, and that is what when you do day in, day out, attitudes get shaped, attitudes get built, and positive attitudes get developed. And this is something which we have seen happening now batch after batch after batch. And frankly speaking, I think that is the most difficult job. Getting them jobs in good companies is easy. But what happens is, when these students get compared, because it is not that the corporations hire only from our B schools, they hire from many other B schools. But when these students get compared with the students of other B schools, within a very short period of time they stand out. They outshine other students by their dedication, with their willingness to do almost anything, their can-do attitude, their willingness to take additional workload, their initiative, you name it. And when that happens, then the organizations say that we must be doing something different than what other B schools are doing, and therefore there is no hesitation to come to our B schools and recruit. I know that there are so many B schools in this country, and I think there's hardly anybody who doesn't claim 100% placement. I am not too sure how genuine they are, but when we say it is 100% placement, then every student actually gets placed, right? And we also have a situation now, which we had last year, which I'm sure is going to happen year after year. Even after our placement process stops, companies come and say that, look, I want to recruit students from your B school, when can I come? And when we tell them that, sorry, every one of our students is placed, they are extremely disappointed. So somewhere, I think, in very, very simple terms, if I look at from recruiting companies' point of view, if you can get somebody who can perform on the job almost from the day one, who has a strong positive attitude, who is not really hesitant of learning, getting his hand dirty, why will I not hire that kind of person? So I think that's something which is happening more and more and more, and we ensure that with our regular interaction with industry, for example, areas like analytics, areas like digital marketing, we tweak our curriculum so that we ensure that not just the knowledge in these areas, but skills in these areas get built, and the newer opportunities which are available in the marketplace, our students can really go and get those kind of jobs.
Thank you very much, sir. Two very important things that I have learned today. One is we've heard of teachers being friends, philosophers and guides, but it's great to see that in actual practice. And second, a college is different because their students turn out to be different, and that's wonderful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.